Oh yeah, okay, I can see some of my differences.
A
little bit different. I will swear blind, there is nothing there.
There's no sign of anything.
There never has been. Hi, it's Todd from Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here, and today I'm at the Wallace Collection again with Toby Capwell. So Toby is the curator at the Arms and Armour collection here. For those of you that don't know the Wallace Collection, it is a late 19th century collection of, well, artefacts of all kinds, art, sculpture, and armoury. And it's right in the heart of London, and it's fantastic. But I'm here to look at a particular dagger, and it is this one. I'm going to put my replica down, which I brought along to show. Thank you, Toby. And it is this one here, and it is absolutely beautiful. Like so many pieces in the Wallace collection, it is completely iconic. The collection is just full of absolutely gorgeous things. But can you just tell us about this one, Toby?
Yeah, this is inventory number A726. It's a late medieval Rondel dagger. Rondel daggers came in a number of shapes and sizes, but the large proportions of this one, the very strong construction of the blade, the relatively large grip and large guards, suggest to me that this has as good a chance of any as being the Rondel dagger of a knight fighting in full plate armor, as opposed to one that's used for civilian self-defense or whatever. This feels like a military weapon of the late 14th, 15th centuries.
It's absolutely no messing about. You know, there's no frills on this. The only sort of little hint to fanciness is this lovely little floret rivet here and the brass plates. But interestingly, both of them in brass, not bronze as perhaps you would expect. But yeah, it's a businessman's tool. It's not for poncing around in the marketplace. This is to be used, not necessarily to be seen with.
And although it's got kind of a darkened patina now, overall the condition of it is pretty good. And it hasn't been messed with, it hasn't been taken apart and restored or whatever. It very much is what it's supposed to be. It may have spent a bit of time in the ground and then been excavated. That's true of many of the medieval weapons in this collection. They come from burials in France of one sort or another. And so therefore this one likely does also have an original French medieval provenance, although we can't prove it.
I hadn't considered actually where it had been found. That's not something that entered my head, but you can see there's a bit of quite aggressive corrosion here on the blade that looks like it was quite acidic. Yeah, and there's some heavy pitting here, but essentially it is, you know, pretty good, pretty complete condition. What is interesting is these two brass plates here and how they're fixed. So this one is missing, but you can see from it that they're actually put into dovetails, which is really quite an awkward and a difficult way to make a handle. It's strange. So one of the reasons that I came here is I've done a couple of films with you before, Toby, where I've replicated pieces out of the Wallace and brought them along, put them side by side and just see how they are. So this is one that I've made. So it is a copy from this, and we'll see how they fare. So overall, well, give your opinion.
Yeah,
be kind.
It's pretty close. The unsharpened back section of the blade on yours is a bit longer.
Yeah.
But you know, overall, the intricacies of the construction are very much there. I'm particularly interested to know what you have to say about the construction of the rondels. It's easy to look at these daggers and just think, okay, they've cut a couple of circles out of a plate of steel and stuck them on. But that's not what's going on here. They're actually two plates that have been slightly dished and then put together to form this kind of lens-shaped construction. But when you talk about it that way, it sounds awfully simple, but actually making that with a historical technique is perhaps not so straightforward.
Well, I don't do it purely with a historic technique, so I can't answer that directly in that sense. But obviously dishing the discs is fine. You can do that on a log with a hammer. And again, I showed how I did that. And then I'll just pop that one down. You then have to flat the edges of the disc, because otherwise if they come in like that, you won't get a good and a neat bond when you brace it. So you just flatten them. So now you've got sort of flat edges to the disc. Now, the way I do it is I actually bolt them together, and then you braze it. And so what that does is it aligns the holes through the centers of the disc. Everything's as it should be. Everything's straight, everything's nice. And then you can braze it and clean up. So forming the disc is fine. But then what you need to do, obviously these don't turn on the blade. So you have to make sure that the apertures through the discs are cut to match the tang.
Right.
So that everything is fixed together solidly. And even this 500-year-old, 600-year-old knife, there's no rattle.
Nice and tight.
Still nice and tight. That's as usable today as it was 600 years ago. So making those is not too difficult. What I find interesting now is I've done a standard construction here on this knife, where I've put the peen of the tang all the way through, and peened it over. I haven't dressed it back particularly. I could have done a flatter job on that, but the bigger the rivet, the more secure it is. However, if you look at this one, I will swear blind, there is nothing there.
There's no sign of anything.
There never has been.
I think even if this is totally flush ground, countersunk tang, you'd still see something. And there's nothing there.
Which really intrigues me, because it means that I have no idea, in fact, how that has been put on.
I'm not sure this has ever been x-rayed, but an x-ray might tell you something.
It probably would.
In the case of the original Dagger, it's quite convenient that the other copper alloy plate is missing.
Very convenient.
So you can see that the wood grip itself is one piece. It's not scales that have been sandwiched on. You know, one presumes that these decorative rivets are holding some kind of fastening through the middle, maybe?
Possibly. That might be related to that, possibly. But it would be an odd thing to do.
With these florets, it seems like an odd thing to do just for abstract decoration. It feels to me as though they have to be there for some constructional purpose, and they've then made a decorative thing out of it.
Maybe it is related to the
or related to just fixing a single the single piece grip in there. I mean, I guess you wouldn't need to once you got the discs in place, but there's nothing there.
There is nothing there.
So what is going on?
I can't think of any other knife that's constructed like that, where there is just a complete mystery about how the pommel is attached.
Yeah.
It's a curious one. Another one that I find curious, and I'd like to know your thought on it, is the shape of the grip. Because for me, the grip feels comfortable. It's very tight on the hand, as it should be. But it feels comfortable when the blade edge is not aligned with your arm.
It's oval, so you want to hold it with the blade going sideways.
Yes, that's a natural position for it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You can get the job done that way, but it's not somehow perfectly ideal.
It's almost like the grip is 90 degrees incorrect to the knife. It's strange. It doesn't make it uncomfortable. It just makes it more comfortable if the blade is on the edge.
It's sort of more comfortable if the blade is facing you, or if it's to the side. Well, you know, these are very personal things, and maybe the person who had it liked it just fine.
Well, actually, that's a good point. How do you think, or do you know, knives like this were bought and sold? Was this just on a market stall? Or was this commissioned for an owner who sat there and did sketches and did the modern sort of design thing?
I suspect that in weapons, it's similar to armor. That, you know, the lower and middle echelons have off-the-peg gear, and noblemen tend to have custom pieces. I mean, it's a little bit easier to make, you know, all kinds of weapons speculatively. And I wouldn't be surprised if rich weapons did get sometimes made speculatively. But the more rich material is involved, the more of a chance you're taking. And the more you want to know that you've got a buyer lined up, and that's essentially then a custom piece. This one, I mean, you know, it's nice, but it's not super duper fancy. I think this dagger is well within the realm of something you just find at a cutler's stall.
It's always been one of my favourite pieces. I mean, Wallace is just full of them. The handle wood itself, I've gone for a boxwood, which is very light now in comparison with that. Looking at it, I'm guessing that's box. Do we know what it is?
I don't think it's ever been analysed. You know, the Wallace is a very well studied, very well documented collection. But even then, there's always new things you can do. And comprehensive wood analysis, as far as I know, hasn't really been done. Individually, there are certain pieces. We've done a lot more like wood and hard animal tissue analysis in the non-European parts of the collection as part of a modern catalog project. But the European catalogs were done in the mid-20th century when they weren't quite so rigorous with the scientific end of things. So, yeah, there's still more to find out.
And the hollow, well, really nice hollow grinding on there as well. They've used slightly smaller wheel than I have, in fact. But yeah, lovely. Otherwise, next time I'll get that short. I've got to shorten that.
If we're being really pernickety, we might as well be.
Yeah. But lovely. Thank you very much.
All right.
So Toby Capwell, the Wallace Collection, the A726 and its original maker and owner that we'll never know. Thank you very much.